We live in two different realities, and I don't fully understand how they got to where they're at, but it's not rational. They don't want to be rational. I feel like we're approaching the end of like a rational era. I feel like we're having a hard swing against enlightenment. Like we're entering this weird romantic period where some people on the right are just going full Nazi.
Yes.
Which is not good.
Yes.
And the people on the left are just going full communist.
Yes.
But with identity politics. And, so the gender identity politics, maybe that's failed. So now it's going to be class warfare because that's more, that's the tried and true oppressor-oppressed dynamic.
We got Connor laughing over there. What's this? Oh, an Angela tweet. My cab driver in London bragged to me about how much they pay in taxes.
It was brutal.
What? He bragged about it?
Oh, we pay a lot in taxes over here. We make sure everything's covered. Oh, we pay it all.
We have so many problems in our country at the moment, Angela.
You see this museum? It's all we made sure we paid for that. And then it was something about a lottery.
Lottery grant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a new tax.
Yeah.
We introduced the lottery to give people the hope of becoming a multi-millionaire, and then funded things with it the government used to fund. But you know what? They actually fund some good things, a lot of sports stuff. But we have a problem at the moment, and our government is broke, and the left-wing parties only answer is tax the rich, but they're all leaving. They're going.
Yeah.
We don't have an exit tax.
Yeah.
We've lost over 10,000 millionaires. Did we find out earlier, Connor?
16,000.
16,000. A couple of billionaires have gone.
You're becoming a third world country.
We are. It really upsets people when you say that.
I know.
It's like a parallel. The UK, there's like this parallel universe that people are living in. There's people like me who are like, what are we doing here? We're insane. Everything's really expensive. No one's got any money. And businesses are closing down everywhere. And then there's a group of other people like, oh, everything's fine. We just need to tax the rich more. We're leaving.
I'm just very confused on what the long-term plan is.
This is Argentina.
Yes, I guess so.
In 70 years, we're going to get a libertarian like Millet, who's going to come into power and try and restore our country to what it once was. Now, we are on this terrible trajectory. The one hope we have is we will have an election in 3 to 4 years, and hopefully someone slightly libertarian-minded, maybe he's read a bit of Hayek, will come into power and go, we can't keep expanding the money, because if we keep expanding the money, we're going to make everyone poor. Hopefully, we're going to get that.
So how does that work here with immigration? There's been a huge influx of immigrants. And we've experienced the same thing in the United States. Do they get to vote in that upcoming election?
Not immediately.
Okay. So you still have
But I don't
time.
know the trajectory. How long? Can you find that out, Connor?
It's once you get citizenship, right?
Yeah, but I don't know what the path is for that. You're talking about basically left-wing people importing voters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know the answer. Connor can look that up. But what is very clear is we are demonizing and scaring off the rich people, and then inviting in, I don't want to sound like a dick when I say this, but like people who are going to be delivery drivers.
Yes.
And we're growing GDP, but our GDP per capita is not growing. If anything, it's falling. And so what do you think is going to happen?
You're not inviting in millionaires and billionaires.
No, we're scaring them off. We're
Yes.
not bringing in enough engineers and doctors. We've also made it a very hostile environment for entrepreneurs. Like a very hostile environment for entrepreneurs. But we live in this parallel reality where we have, which is quite interesting, really. Imagine between your current election with that you've just had with Trump versus Kamala, and then by the next election, the vote was between two new parties that wasn't the Democrats or the Republicans. Like, this is essentially things are, and look, and I know you're a two-party country, really. You two-party politics, whereas we have multiple parties. But by the next election, my prediction is that the two biggest parties will be certainly Reform, which is essentially our new version of the Republicans.
Right.
And essentially probably Green, but maybe Lib Dems, which are two small left-wing parties. We will not, the Conservatives and the Labour Party will not be in government or likely shadow government. Out of nowhere.
Currently, 5 million people can't vote due to their papers.
Can't. But what's the path to be able to vote?
It's get citizenship.
How long does that take?
That will range, right?
I don't know. I'm sure Grok can tell us.
How crazy are the Greens here?
Look, I was listening to Charlie Kirk I think he was being interviewed by Gavin Newsom. But they were having a conversation. We listened to it on YouTube yesterday. And do you know what I thought was brilliant about it? Is Charlie Kirk went in, he talks about getting on the same frequency as the other person. And he went in to help Gavin Newsom and to give him ideas. And he said to him, let's talk about the trans issue. Because this is, you're getting crushed on this. This is like an 80-20. Even your own voters are like, we shouldn't be having men competing in women's sports.
It's too much.
It's too much. He said, why don't you just come out now and say, you're getting crushed on this. Why don't you say that? And the thing about the Green Party is if you ask Zach Polanski, can a woman have a penis? He will say, yes, they can.
Of course.
Yeah. And so that's to me, like, can I take you seriously? I've got two questions. Can a woman have a penis? And will you run a government that runs inflationary policies? Like, if you answer yes to both of those, you shouldn't be taken seriously. And before you came in, we've recorded our first ever monologue where I spoke at the camera for 52 minutes, ranting away like Dave Smith, basically saying, we're all nuts. No, as an electorate, we don't actually know what we're voting for. Because if you vote, if you are a lefty and you're saying, I want to help the poor and the most vulnerable in society, and you support monetary expansion, you are making the rich richer and making the poor poorer. You know that as an Austrian.
Oh yeah.
So that's my starting point with every left-wing voter is like, do you care about the poor? Yes. Do you understand that if you vote for monetary expansion, you're going to make me richer and the poor poorer? And they come out with, no, that doesn't happen. That's the base reality. And so, look, the Greens are doing very well. Zach Polanski is doing a very good job of saying virtuous things that virtuous people go, oh, well, he's amazing. We have to vote for him. But there's no grounded economic reality to what he's talking about.
We live in two different realities. And I don't fully understand how they got to where they're at, but it's not rational. They don't want to be rational. I feel like we're approaching the end of like a rational era. I feel like we're having a hard swing against enlightenment. Like we're entering this weird romantic period where some people on the right are just going full Nazi.
Yes.
Which is not good.
Yes.
And the people on the left are just going full communist.
Yes.
But with identity politics. And, so the gender identity politics, maybe that's failed. So now it's going to be class warfare because that's more, that's the tried and true oppressor-oppressed dynamic.
But this is the thing. It's like, okay, if enough people are listening to my show, what can we do that's effective?
Yeah.
And I think the least effective thing we can do is outright support a party. I think we have to outright support principles.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree. So this is kind of what I do with third-party politics in the United States.
Go back, because not everyone in the UK is going to know who you are, Angela.
Sure. So I'm the former chair of the National Libertarian Party, and I made headlines and became, beloved and hated for making a deal with Donald Trump in 2023. I met with him. I was very fortunate. Rick Grinnell, former director of national intelligence and former ambassador to Germany under Trump's first administration, reached out to me and said, hey, I'm a friend of President Trump. We'd like to know what libertarians think of him, which is quite a thing, you know. Wake up at 7 a.m. and you have a text from the former director of national intelligence. and I thought, well, this is an incredible opportunity because I can move the direction. I can move the needle in the direction of liberty. And so that's how I view third-party politics. I had a cup of coffee before I called Rick Grinnell and spoke to him. And I was very diplomatic, which is not something that libertarians generally do. And I told him, libertarians, there are things we like and there are things that leave a little bit to be desired. We're not super crazy about the drone strikes on General Soleimani, but we do appreciate you didn't start any new wars. That's really, that's a first for quite a while. We have mixed views on immigration in the Libertarian Party, and we're very sympathetic to the lawfare you've experienced, and we think that's really gross, and we hope you defeat it. And I think that in particular, they really liked.
Okay.
They really liked that response, and so that got us into this conversation of like, how do we get the libertarian vote
and release Ross Ulbricht?
Well, that was what I came up with.
By the way, his mother, Lynn, when I started my original podcast 8 years ago, she was my 10th interview.
Oh, she's a doll.
She's a hero.
She also lives close to me.
Great.
In Austin, Texas. She's wonderful.
I'm absolutely in awe of that woman. It was really interesting watching her. Obviously, she spent the last, how many years? Was it 8 years? 9 years?
It was like 11 years.
11 years campaigning for the release of Ross. But also she became an activist for prison reform.
Yes.
And what she's exposed with the lobbying by the Prison Guards Union. Are they called the Prison Guards Union? Where she explained to me these small towns rely on the prison to provide jobs.
Yes.
So they don't want prison reform. They want people in jail for smoking weed.
It's crazy. And I mean, I've gotten to know a lot more about the situation in prison, having spoken and advocated for people in prison. A really wild one is Joe Exotic, who was, like
the tiger guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I speak to him a lot, and the conditions in his prison are it's just horrifying. Black mold.
Ugh. Well, look, I consider myself a libertarian in training because we don't have a large libertarian movement in the UK. It's not as large as you have in the US. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, I'd never even heard of the idea of libertarianism until I discovered Bitcoin. And then obviously I started bumping into Bitcoiners.
Interesting.
Yeah. And, the Ron Paul class and various people who were just kind of shouting at me saying, stop being a statist, go and read Hayek.
We're very charming, very sociable.
Do you know what? The problem was when I made the show, I lived in a bubble whereby I would travel out to the US, stay in an Airbnb, make some shows and come back. When I stopped doing it and came back to the UK and started interacting with our government more, I was like, everything the libertarian said is true.
Yeah.
Everything is right. And now I'm a disciple of Dave Smith. I think he's brilliant.
Very nice.
And but I'm still in training. I'm still reading through my various textbooks. I've got a library at home of books. I'm buying them quicker than I can read them.
Ludwig von Mises.
Yes.
Yep.
Bastiat's The Law is one I'm part of the way through.
One.
But I'm also like my friend Nick. Do you know Nick Carter?
Possibly.
Yeah. So he said to me something interesting once about libertarianism. He said the problem with libertarianism is to achieve libertarian goals, you really need to accumulate power, which is antithetical to being a libertarian.
Yes.
And I was like, so really what we need is libertarian parties that accumulate power to dismantle government.
It's been a struggle.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's been a struggle, right?
This is where I'm stuck.
So the first thing I had to do was take over the Libertarian Party, which was quite controversial. And, prior to my rise, through the Mises Caucus, the party had been infiltrated by leftists in the 90s and 2000s, George Soros money, all of that stuff. Former national chair was also the chair of an organization that was very focused on democracy as opposed to liberty. And that's how they sort of slowly slid, into a totally different framing. So when I took it over, we get smeared. Alt-right, Nazi, racist, misogynist. Apparently I hate women. Just kind of crazy, right?
Yep.
And And, I was like, well, we're just going to advance liberty. Everything prior to that was sort of like this weird model UN club, very focused on Robert's Rules of Order and parliamentary procedure and just having a candidate on the ballot. And I said, well, why don't we actually do something? Very controversial. So I started doing issue coalitions. I did an event called Rage Against the War Machine, which was a big anti-war, maybe the first big anti-war protest against the United States involvement in the war in Ukraine.
Great.
We pulled Tulsi Gabbard, Ron Paul. We actually worked with a bunch of leftists, and it's interesting because one of our speakers is like now the director of national intelligence. We started to kind of get on the map. The big one, though, was working with President Trump's campaign and also Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Okay.
And I really had to drag the party kicking and screaming towards success. It's so challenging to get the libertarians to do the thing. Like we're all sort of floating around in theory. We're all incredibly economically literate, but it's like, how do we get from point A to point B? People just lose their minds. It can't be done. Can't be done.
Well, it's like, do you want to make that compromise of working with the thing you hate to make it do less of what you hate? And I think that's it. Like, I try and be practical about this. So when we did that monologue before, I said I'm a conservative libertarian. And when I say about my early understanding of libertarianism is that I want directionally to be correct.
Yes.
So Eric Voorhees, you must know Eric Voorhees. Yes. So I interviewed him very early on, and he said to me, I was like, what is this libertarian end goal you want? He said, I don't want the end goal. He said, just give me government next year to be 5% smaller, even 1% smaller.
Yes.
Look, just don't even grow. Can we just get to the point where it doesn't grow year on year and then get 1% smaller? And I was like, okay, if we talk about the big red button and the utopian end goal, it's never going to happen. But can we just infiltrate government and just make it start less wars and tax less and be pro-business?
Yes. You just have to get in and just start hacking.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to do that, you're not going to do anything, So like the first thing I did was make a deal with President Trump when he was running, which was really surreal, right? And so I got invited to Mar-a-Lago, and he was a few minutes late because he was testifying in his lawfare case in the Southern District of New York, and literally flew in to meet me for dinner. And he was very sweet and warm and friendly. And he does eat his steak well done with ketchup, which in the United
criminal.
States, at least.
It's like my dad.
Yeah.
We go to a restaurant, my dad, when he orders a steak, he basically says, I want it burnt. And if I see any blood, it's going back.
Yes. He tried to send mine back because it was rare. But then he apologized and said, oh, I'm sorry. You're probably healthier than I am. It's whatever. Eat whatever you want. But I got to talk to him.
Yeah.
I had like a 2-hour conversation with him where he totally listened to everything that my husband and I said. We talked about like the drug war, and I was like, well, maybe don't give every drug dealer the death penalty. He was listening,
Mm-hmm.
And it finally got to the point where, it was like make the ask. What should I ask him to do to get libertarian votes? And this is where it's like we start to get into like really like action,
How many libertarian votes do you think there are out there?
At minimum, like a solid 1.2 million.
Okay.
And that's not counting protest votes and people who are just ignorantly checking a box. That's like people who are just like dedicated, like I am a registered libertarian or a card-carrying member. I identify. I know what it is.
But if you can influence a Dave Smith or a Scott Horton or like any of those people who are libertarians to say, look, to maybe proactively talk about Trump might do some good things, there are people who are going to be listening to them who maybe just floating voters or Republicans who are unsure. So it does a bigger job.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, when Gary Johnson ran, it was like 3.2%. Mm-hmm. So it goes up and down a lot depending on the candidate. And he was a former governor.
It could swing in an election.
Yes. Well, that's why he reached out to me. He was like, I had a long phone call with him before I met with him in person. He's like, oh, Jo Jorgensen, she took the vote for me. She took the vote in 2020. Oh, the Libertarians. Yeah, you're not going to win. You're not going to. I was like, well, I know we're not going to win. I'm not really worried about winning. We're trying to do something.
The humble bee, a keystone species crucial to the survival of Earth's inhabitants. Here's how things would look if bees vanished. And here's how they'd look if humans vanished. But imagine if instead we became a keystone species by doing things the right way, by taking responsibility for our actions and becoming the solution. Iron mines the world's most responsible currency the right way. Because the future depends on it.
And does that mean not putting a candidate forward yourself to vote, for people to vote for?
Well, I have a theory. I have a strategy on that I'd like to do. So what I told President Trump at Mar-a-Lago was, if you come to our convention, because he wanted to come speak at our national convention, that's just where we nominate our candidate for president. I said, if you come speak there, which is extremely controversial and maybe political suicide for me, but if you walk out on stage and you say that you're going to free Ross Ulbricht, everyone will lose their minds.
Yep.
They will scream, and they will all vote for you. And if they still aren't convinced right then and there, they're going to change their minds and they're going to vote for you as the time gets closer, as it becomes more and more real. And I said, and the Bitcoiners, they don't even vote. They will vote for you, and they will give you their money.
And they got a lot of money. And
he said, who's Ross Ulbricht? I'll do it. I'll walk out on stage and I'll say, free Ross Ulbricht, mic drop. It was just like that, it was that easy. Like, obviously, it's like it was a real slog to get elected and have to be the chairman of a very dysfunctional organization for a couple of years. But it was the ask was just that easy.
So he got the libertarian vote and the orange Bitcoin vote.
He did. And we had a record low vote for the libertarian candidate, because we did still run one.
Okay.
We ran a guy who a lot of our members refer to as, quote, a gay race communist. He was very left-wing, rainbow flags everywhere. He spent all of his time at pride parades. President Trump could not have been happier. When I told his staff who we selected, they all said, yes.
Was that strategic?
Well, a little bit. It was like a happy accident. And we didn't have a good candidate. We just didn't have a good candidate. Dave Smith was going to run.
Yes.
And he had to back out for family reasons. And, we got to our 6th or 7th ask, got a candidate, and the Mises Caucus candidate didn't win because we just didn't have a strong candidate. And so after 7 rounds of convention voting, that was, what we were left with. And could I have pulled him off the ballot and forced my board? Yes, but then we don't get Ross Ulbricht out of prison, and I burn my relationship with President Trump. So no, we're keeping the clown on. I referred to it as a shit-eating suicide mission, but we're the suicide squad.
So have you taken many bullets for this?
Oh, so many. 2 lawsuits, maybe more on the way. Oh yeah.
But you must have some support as well.
Oh, a ton of support. A ton of support. A ton of hate, but the haters it's a small group. They're very angry still.
So how are the libertarians right now? Because if you listen to Dave Smith, he's not happy with Trump. He thinks he's done some bits he said he would do, but there's still the US has still been involved in wars.
Yes.
And they still bombed Iran, and they haven't really got the debt down. If anything, I'm thinking, what is it, up 2.5 trillion? And
it's up. It's up.
And so there's this guy called Nima Parvini. He wrote a book called The Populist Delusion. Talks about populist candidates getting into power, and then they can't actually do the things. Yeah.
It's challenging. Senator Alyssa Slotkin, a Democrat, just released a whole video about defy, telling people in the intelligence agencies to defy the president. The Democrats have basically just declared Cold War on us. And you see that with some of these Bitcoin cases too, the Southern District of New York, and activist judges across the country are like, I'm going to make a ruling that says the president can't do X, Y, and Z. It's like, you're not the Supreme Court. Who are you? You're like a lower circuit judge. You don't get to decide that. The libertarians are pretty pissed off right now. I'm sympathetic, obviously, but I have a long-term vision.
Okay.
I'm not, if we flip out every 6 months when things don't go our way, we're just never going to be able to advance. If we burn all of our relationships that quickly, we have to do a long march through the institutions.
Yes. You just stack some wins.
We have to stack wins. This is our first major victory. We can't, a lot of people just want to burn it all down. And I'm just like, no, you just have to be disciplined and just keep marching. You can't burn your relationship with the administration like this. It's stupid.
Is there any risk that you get? I think of House of Cards when I watched that. It was like looking behind the veil of what really goes on and all the kind of deals. Is there any risk that you get sucked into the machine, become part of it? How do you maintain your own principles?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, there's a risk. So for me, I just stay like a registered libertarian.
Okay.
And I don't shift that Overton window.
Okay.
And I stay, I am essentially like an ambassador to the administration for the libertarians, because I can, still behave myself and, talk nicely to them and not insult them. But my goal is to shrink government. Mm-hmm. And so if we're getting our people in, and I did send hundreds of resumes in, and hiring has been slow, but it's starting to pick up. If we get a few people in who start to do the job, that's a start. It just at the end of the day, to me, it's like, did it shrink? If it shrunk, then we're on the right track. We need to give it at least a couple of cycles.
Okay, so that means through the full Trump administration to the next one.
Yes.
Which a lot of people talk should and could be J.D. Vance.
Yes.
He will have a hell of a battle against likely the AOC or Gavin Newsom, probably one of those two.
He's clearly jockeying for the position. Or they may slot him in as VP and put someone more moderate and less slimy in. I don't know. Maybe they learned their lesson with Kamala. Maybe they didn't.
There's going to be a battle, though.
It will be a battle, especially if morale doesn't pick up on the right wing.
Yeah, and the right wing's seems a bit fractured at the moment.
It's horrible. It's horrible. People are just flipping out. Charlie Kirk died, and everything just imploded.
Yep.
It just imploded.
Yeah. I'm still upset about that.
It was horrible.
We were watching videos of his again yesterday. I think he's the best you had.
He was literally the best we had.
Yeah.
He was so generous. He was so kind. I guess it's fascinating how the woke mind virus works, because he would just have conversations with people. He wasn't cruel or belittling. He wouldn't agree with them, but he was never nasty to anyone. I've watched so many videos. It's just wild.
Yeah, but he challenged that kind of leftist orthodoxy that has grown out of what used to be something that was about the working class, and then just came about all this kind of insane, crazy bullshit.
It's just really simple stuff, men can't become women.
Yes.
Abortion is wrong, and here's why I think so. Yeah. Just straightforward, not super emotional, fairly rational.
Welfare traps you in poverty.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched this really good video on the way where he was talking about young people, and saying my message to young people is just get out there and work hard and stop whining about government and what you deserve.
Yes.
Stop being a victim. And I was like, I'm a parent, right? Do I want my children to be watching Zap Polanski, or we have this other guy, Gary Economics, who doesn't understand economics, ranting about taxing the rich and making everyone a victim? Or do I want them to watch Charlie Kirk and says, look, life is hard, get out there and work hard. Stop whinging, get out there and work hard. That's what I want my kids to see.
Yes.
But our problem here in the UK is we have a growing, especially amongst the youngsters, a growing base who think they deserve something from the government, and they could become the majority, and that's going to create a death spiral in our country.
It's very scary. We have the same thing in Gen Z. You know, Gen Z males are starting to lean to the right, but that's starting to that phrase can be a little bit deceptive because most of Gen Z is left wing. Some of them are starting to break away. All of the women, it's like a vast majority of the women are leftists. It's very scary. You know, as angry as millennials and Gen Xers are at boomers are like holding the Gen Z socialism at bay. When they die, it's going to be like we're going to have to really mobilize millennials as voters because Gen Z could just absolutely wreck us in the polls.
Was it Gen Zs who won Mandami the vote?
I think so. I mean, I really think, you know, there's all these conspiracies about or ideas like, oh, it was a referendum on Israel, which I don't think is correct because it's a local election. Even if there's videos of Eric Adams kissing a wall or whatever, you know, he wasn't in the running. I think people in New York were really pissed off at how expensive it was.
Yeah.
And that's why most of them voted. They're like, well, okay, he's a crazy, woke Muslim guy who wasn't born in the United States, and everything's really sketchy and weird about him, but just really pissed off about how expensive things are. So we're going to give him a try.
It's so funny, though, because my expectation... How long is his term? 4 years?
Yes.
In 4 years' time, things will be even more expensive because of the things he does.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
You might have some cheaper rents.
And all the millionaires are leaving New York.
So it's like here.
Yes.
They go to Miami?
I think they're going to Miami.
They go to red states.
Yeah, they're going to red states. I mean, maybe Tampa and Orlando. A lot of them are going to Florida. They're probably looking at North Carolina. I'm sure maybe we'll see some in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
New York is like mini UK. What's happening in the UK is happening in New York.
Yeah, so we went out there, where were we there, 3-4 weeks ago? Yeah, we went out 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it's changed a lot. I've been going since 2002, year after 9/11, and first time I went, it was amazing to see the city. Went to Brooklyn, it was dangerous, and came back.
Yeah.
And then over the years, I go nearly every year, and I just sort of get better and better and better. I think it peaked for me probably like 2015. It was brilliant.
Yes.
Brooklyn was amazing. There was one time I went to New York and I stayed in Williamsburg. I didn't even go into Manhattan. I had a great time. And then I've been going back since COVID, and I've just seen it get worse and worse and worse. Like the real signal for me is you suddenly saw lots of homeless people again, but not just homeless and just high as fuck off fentanyl or something.
Yes.
And open cocaine dealing in Times Square. Like people just come up to you and say, "Do you want to buy coke?" I was like, hold on. I used to see police in Times Square. Now they're selling cocaine openly. It's just like, and I don't care. I mean, I used to do cocaine, but it's just the signal for me is strong that this is a city decaying.
It's not homeless keeping to themselves.
No.
They're aggressive. They're angry. The drug use is out in the open. Trash.
Everywhere.
Trash everywhere.
Rats everywhere.
Everywhere. LA's the same, but New York is just so sad because Giuliani, controversial. He did some things that we were not crazy about, but he cleaned it up. He did get it clean, and it's a wasteland.
I went to Washington, so I went down to Pub Key to see Thomas, and I went to Washington Park, and it was the weirdest scenarios. I'm walking through Washington Park, and you know the rows of benches down the paths. You've got people buckled over, high off fentanyl, and sat next to them as a couple on a date.
I can't understand.
It's just like, what?
What are you doing sitting your woman down next to the high on fentanyl drug addict? I guess there's nowhere else to sit, and if she's tired.
Well, so, I mean, I'm fascinated by what's going to happen over the next few years in America.
Yeah.
I hope, what is your plan to make government smaller? How will you actually do it?
Okay, so there's a lot of work being done in the Office of Management and Budget right now, and it doesn't get coverage on social media because it's just not as sexy as screaming about the Epstein files or Israel. But that's how USAID got cut. They zeroed out the budget. Amaryllis Fox and Russ Vought are doing an incredible job, and it's really simple. It's what's this for? Budget item. You need this money? What's it for? You can't tell me? I'm not going to say no, but we'll release it when you tell me. And just wow, it's amazing how much people just don't want to spend, they don't want to let you know what they're spending money on. And so, they're doing a really good job. They're auditing things, they're getting costs down. We just have to hold on to that.
Where are the big pockets of money? I don't know what like in the UK, I think our tax revenue is about, I don't know, $1 trillion.
Sure.
And we spend about 1.15 trillion. So we're going over by about 15%. I don't know what it is in the US, but I know our big pockets of spend. One is the National Health Service. I think that's about 20%. 10% is debt interest. Total welfare is, I don't know, maybe 40%. Like there are big pockets. Yep. Where's the big pockets in the US?
Defense and health.
Defense and health.
And there's another, there are some really good GOP activists who are doing auditing of Medicaid waste, fraud, and abuse. And they're finding it's going to be, I think, close to $1 trillion nationwide.
Wow.
Most of it in California. Big surprise. Should people in the United States who bring in $1.7 million annually, should they be getting free prescription drugs? No.
They can afford it.
Yeah. Buy your stuff. Buy your stuff. That's insane. It's totally insane that middle-class people are paying for their prescription drugs, and there are people, boomers probably, who are just getting free drugs. It's not free. Taxpayers are paying for it. So if that gets cleaned up, it is possible to shrink government. It's just really hard work. And there are people in government who are fighting it who don't want to shrink it. They want to push us to universal health care. And I think that's why, like Obamacare, that was the start of it. Mm-hmm. And the Dems screamed because they wanted universal health care, but they only got Obamacare. They're much more disciplined than anybody on the right. They'll fight for what they want. They get something lesser than that. They scream through a fit, stick to it, and just keep pushing the Overton window in their direction.
So universal health care here is sacred. The NHS is sacred.
Yep.
Any attempt to, even consider kind of elements of it that we should maybe privatize. Or so for example, if you want to go to the doctors, you phone up the doctors, you get an appointment. But it takes 3 weeks because there's a lot of people want appointments and you turn up. Most of the people in there don't need to be at the doctors. If you go to an accident emergency, yes, you have people turn up in a car crash or stabbed or heart attack, but you got a lot of people turn up with anxiety or issues that the doctors should handle. In Ireland, the way they solve the doctors is if you want to go to the doctors, it's €50. That's it. And every single person has to pay it.
Nice.
And it's a good idea. But even the idea of bringing that into the UK, people fight against. They want all healthcare provided free at the point of access.
It's not free.
It's never free.
It's not free.
There's no such thing as free. But is there any place for social healthcare in your worldview?
I don't think so. At the community level, yeah, but not at the federal level.
Okay.
Not at the federal level. I'm about to just drop my health insurance. I pay $426 a month, I think, just to have it. That I have to pay a copay. Every time I walk through the door, I don't actually even go, but if I were to walk through the door, I have to pay a copay, somewhere between $20 and $80 just for a regular doctor visit. I'm about to drop it and go to crowdfunded healthcare. It's going to be cheaper. I'm going to have better coverage. I'll be able to go to a specialist directly if I need to. I just can't imagine.
Is there one called Crowd Health? Isn't that the
yes.
big? Yes.
Yeah.
They've been doing great, right?
Yes, they have. I'm about to jump to that. I think it makes more sense.
How does that work?
So you pay, I was looking and I just looked at it like a week ago. You pay at least $40 a month and it's like a big GoFundMe, right?
Okay.
Every month you're going to get pitched. Somebody needs an operation. They need a this or that. Your premium is going to go up, but it won't go up more than like $140 to $150. And it's maxed out for families of 4 or more at it's like $350 or $360. Some crazy, I was like, I could put my whole family on that and pay less than I'm paying for myself on regular health insurance. And when you need an operation, or if you have a baby, the max you pay out of pocket is $3,000. It was $8,000 for me with health insurance.
It kind of is socialized healthcare within the construct of a private environment.
Yeah, you can
it's like
opt
insurance
in.
based.
Yeah, you can opt in. And they also help you negotiate any bill. They help you shop. So if you need like a knee replacement, that was an example they used. They'll help you find the most affordable one. And then there's a max you pay out of pocket for every single thing that is almost always lower than your insurance. And they help negotiate the bill down.
But why does that work? Because insurance is essentially private based. Crowd health is essentially private based.
Yes.
Is it because the insurance system is essentially crony capitalism?
Oh, absolutely.
So it's tied into protectionism and...
Oh, yes. And it's the bills are so gross. I mean, they're full of, like the nurse checked your blood pressure for 2 minutes. Well, that'll be, $90. Just like crazy things. They just inflate every bill. And there's all kinds of regulatory capture. Nobody's checking. Most of the time you work 40 to 60 hours a week. You end up sick in the hospital for a week. You don't have time to go through your bill and call hours on end to argue, dispute fraudulent charges or charges that are just obscene and should be lowered, So crowdfund pays people to do that.
Interesting. Yeah, we have quite good private healthcare here. We've had it for 20 years. For me, my son and my daughter, it started out at £150 a month for the three of us.
Okay.
We're now up to $350 because I've got older and I had a back operation that kind of put the premiums up. But any situation we have, we speak to a doctor online and we see pretty quick. I had my operation 3 days after my consultation and it was great. And if we've got a lot of private doctor signs open up on our high streets in our town centres, it's £50 for your phone call, book an appointment, £50. You get seen by a doctor in a nice modern doctor's who knows you, who can see you the next day. And it's brilliant. It's just like they're proving the private model works is more efficient than the government model.
Nice.
The thing is there's so many people out there who could afford it, who still aren't doing it, who's still relying on the NHS. It's crazy.
I think people get really emotionally attached. They believe in this idea, so they'll pay into it even if they're suffering or in pain.
There is zero world where you will be able to convince the left-wing side of this country that they're wrong on universal healthcare.
Sure.
They don't want to hear it.
It's mostly the same in the United States. Yeah. And, one left-winger I've had good faith conversations with us is Jimmy Dore.
Okay.
And he's for universal healthcare. He's not nasty about it, but he is for it. And it's just a heartstrings thing, man. They feel like, we just got to take care of them. And it's like, yeah, but, with all of the regulatory capture and special interests, like we're actually not providing good care.
No.
It's not good care. It's the worst care. Like we could do so much better. And they're just afraid,
John made me laugh. So I have this heart condition where I have these things called SVTs, or it's my heart rate goes absolutely crazy. It happens once every couple of years. Son's taken me to hospital for it. I've had it happen once in America. My experience in both hospitals was almost identical, UK and US, in that I waited, I think, a couple of hours to be seen because there was a queue and there was a wait.
Yep.
And then I was seen and I had all my checks done. The only difference between the US and the UK is in the UK, when I'm done, they said, we've done your checks, you can go home. In the US, they said, you just take this, this, and this, and sign this, this, and this. And I was like, I have this in the UK, and this doesn't happen. And it's fear of lawsuits.
Yes. Oh, yeah. The insurance that doctors have to pay is through the roof. Malpractice insurance is very high. And so I'm sympathetic to a certain degree because the United States, especially in California, people are very, very litigious. They have med mal caps, wrongful death caps even. But they have med mal caps, wrongful death caps, but also the doctors they cram 30, sometimes 50 patients in an hour into these offices. They don't do a good job.
Nope.
So then you get sued. It's like, why don't you change the way you practice? Stop over-prescribing prescription drugs, which is a leading cause of death in the United States. And then maybe you won't get sued so much. Don't rush women. Like our rate of of deaths in deliveries is very bad for a first world country.
Yep.
For baby delivery. It's very bad. And it's not because American women just have some weird thing where they give birth to children who die. It's because the doctors pump them full of drugs. They don't want to do deliveries on the weekend. It's just kind of crazy stuff. It's like, just to slow down. Yes, it's painful. Let her take 36 hours or whatever it needs, just help her through it.
And sometimes they arrive on a Sunday.
Yes, that's just the human condition. They don't like the human condition. They're like 9 to 5, pop that baby out.
Well, listen, look, that's a long intro to talking about financial freedom.
That is true.
Let's talk about financial freedom. So, as you know, I made a Bitcoin show for a long time.
Yes.
And there has been a war on Bitcoin globally from certain states. We have governments like the government of El Salvador, which is very pro-Bitcoin. But there was a long time under the Biden administration, pretty much the entire administration, we felt like they were coming for us.
Yeah.
For people who just wanted to hold a financial asset and be able to transact privately. Why, as a libertarian, why would what would you tell people to say that the importance of Bitcoin and financial freedom?
I mean, the dollar is not in a good place.
Yeah.
And it keeps getting in a worse place. So it would make sense to diversify. I recently heard that, so everyone knows what cubic zirconia is.
Yes.
There's a gold version of that coming out. I love gold standard people. I think that's great. I think it's still a wise idea to have, some gold or silver, if you get in some crazy apocalyptic event, you have something to, there's no electricity. It's probably not going to happen though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cubic zirconia gold, lab gold, that's going to, we're not going back to the gold standard,
Hold on, because there's lab diamonds now.
Yeah.
That are, my understanding is they're indistinguishable from real diamonds.
Yes. Same with lab gold.
Yeah, so it's destroyed the scarcity of diamonds, basically.
Yes.
And you can create now lab gold.
Yes. It's difficult.
Indistinguishable from real gold?
Yes. It's difficult and cumbersome so far.
But it will get easier.
Yes.
They will figure it out, and then it will just become a industrial metal and no longer money.
With all due respect to gold bugs, I think you should consider Bitcoin because we don't have a lot of good options left. And this is a good option.
So can you look that up, by the way, Connor? Lab-grown gold. I'm really intrigued by it. I hadn't heard about this.
It's fairly new.
Yeah, so I knew about the diamonds because there's a girl I know from London who moved to New York to work for a company who was creating these diamonds.
Yep.
Which was odd. Okay, so...
Currently not commercially viable or cost-effective.
Yet.
Not yet.
This is a lab-grown gold nugget.
But that is.
There you go.
That is a lab-grown gold nugget.
There's no lab-grown Bitcoin yet. There's no Bitcoin knockoffs yet.
Yeah.
I don't see it happening.
Well, even if you weren't lab-growing it, we know that gold in the universe is not scarce.
It's not scarce.
Whereas Bitcoin is scarce in the universe, in this room.
It
in
can't.
This country.
It's not inflatable. You can't inflate it. You can't pump it up. There's a finite amount.
So where are we at with the U.S. government in terms of their attitude towards? I just want to stick to Bitcoin, but I know we have to talk about crypto.
A little bit. Yeah, Bitcoin.
But with their attitude towards it, because essentially, like, America's the first line of defense for this. If America falls, it's easier for Europe to fall. If America supports Bitcoin, is pro-Bitcoin, it puts a bit of pressure on government, say our government. I know the Reform Party led by Nigel Farage, they have a pro-Bitcoin attitude. They've put together a manifesto for how they'll treat crypto and Bitcoin should they come into government. Where are we at with it?
Okay, so I think we're behind where the current administration intended to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The administration made a bunch of promises and they embraced it publicly. President Trump spoke at the Bitcoin conference. J.D. Vance spoke at the Bitcoin conference after he was elected. They want to be pro-Bitcoin. But there are so many things going on in the United States right now, and the administration has its hands full that they have not fully cleaned up the mess of the Biden administration, like fully ending Operation Choke Point 2.0, following through completely on the Blanche memo. I mean, I think they're willing and they want to do it, but they are just a little bit behind on their to-do list.
I want to talk to you about CAPE. Now, we're all taking security seriously in these modern days. Not only do we lock our front doors, but we're all using VPNs and encrypted messengers. But our cellular carrier still knows everything about us. Now, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile, they've all been caught selling or leaking our data. Now, this is where CAPE comes in. CAPE is a privacy-first mobile carrier built by experts in cybersecurity and national security. Now, they're not going to ask you for your name, your address, or your social security number. Whatever little data they record about you, they delete it anyway. CAPE protects you from SIM swaps, location tracking, and even voicemail hacking, and with features like SIM swap protection, enhanced signaling security, and encrypted voicemail. It is privacy from the SIM card up. CAPE is a premium cellular service without all the surveillance. Now, if you want to try CAPE out, you can get 33% off for the next 6 months. All you have to do is head over to cape.co and use the code PETER33. Just head over to cape.co, CAPE, the carrier built for privacy. Right, let's talk about both those things. Explain Operation Choke Point 2.0. Nick Carter, by the way, who I mentioned, wrote a really good article on this.
Yeah, I probably won't explain it as well as him, but Biden treated, I think the best way to put it is Biden treated cryptocurrency like it was terrorism.
Yes. Enemy of the state.
Yes. And so they cracked down on Bitcoiners. They treated any innovation and technological advancement as though it was dangerous and harmful. They almost treated it like we were manufacturing narcotics, I think, and made a point to send alphabet agencies and activist judges after Bitcoiners or anybody developing technology around Bitcoin or cryptocurrency.
And the Blanche memo?
So the Blanche memo was written by Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, and it basically said we are going to end Biden's policy of regulation via prosecution. So Biden and his administration basically said if there's any gray area, we're going to default to arresting people and locking them up, at minimum suing them into oblivion.
Is this because they considered Bitcoin as an enemy to the money printer?
Well, it is, yes.
Well, we know it is,
Yes.
but that is why.
Yes, yeah. And beyond that, I mean, it removes control from their hands. They're control freaks.
Yes.
Not every administration is going to be a control freak like that. There are going to be administrations that are more laissez-faire. They embrace capitalism. They know that aggressive central planning is just not going to produce economic growth, and it's going to drive out innovators. But Biden administration, we got to stamp that out. We got to stamp that out.
It's so funny. I've read so much U.S. history about the founding of the Republic and how you kicked our asses, and a country that was built on like a foundation of freedom and liberty, you have a constant battle to maintain it.
Constant.
It's like you're at the gates trying to keep them closed because there is a constant battle to attack all the freedom and liberties, all the ideas that your country stands for.
Yes.
Or stood for.
Yes. It's a republic if you can keep it.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep it. It's really hard, So, we've got all these cases now that sort of came to their conclusion after President Trump took office. And people in the DOJ are aware of them, but they're busy dealing with weaponized departments, people who are openly defying them, people who are secretly defying them, that it's been challenging to get the DOJ on top of these Bitcoin cases. And they're very important cases. So it's not like they should be far down the list. They should be at the top of the list.
The Bitcoin hostages.
Yes, the Bitcoin hostages.
Yeah, and by the way, with everything you said there, I mean, you're basically making an obvious argument for small government, because the bigger government gets, the more nefarious it can be.
Yes, and the bigger the to-do list,
Yes.
you know.
And the more people you have to track, and the more departments that can go rogue.
So one of these cases, and I'll, keep it anonymous, but one of them, and there's a number, right? So I have a good relationship with the DOJ, the Pardon Attorney's Office, people in the Trump administration. So I call, and I'm like, XYZ is happening. Can you help? It's like, yes, but you guys really need to try to work with the line prosecutors. Well, the line prosecutors, which would be the people, middle management, lower management, they hate your guts. They hate the president. They hate us. They hate Bitcoin. They don't want to work. If you don't ride their ass, they will not do what you tell them to do. And they're gleeful about it. They're, there's one prosecutor, he has got rainbow pedicure, nail, they're very woke, sassy. The department is kind of out of control.
I guess that's one of the biggest challenges then. You win an election, but you don't win over every government employee.
Right.
If anything, you suddenly create arch enemies who want to fuck things up for you.
Yep. And I don't say it as a criticism. I mean,
just a reality.
It's just the reality. When I took over the Libertarian National Party, it's, small. It's like a staff of 20 people. Half of them hated my guts, and it's like hide the ball. Where's the this? Where's the that? Where's the data breach? Where's, it's like whack-a-mole, you got to fire everybody. It's not so easy though. It's not so easy at the DOJ.
All right. So how much can we talk about these cases? Because the more we can talk about, the more we can highlight how, nefarious these cases are and what they actually mean for freedom and liberty, because my view is, and I think a lot of people who hold Bitcoin's view is, that if you write code, if you're running a Bitcoin node, you're essentially kind of disagreeing with the state, because you're producing something to circumvent the state in one way or another. The creation of Bitcoin is to give you an exit from the dollar, an optionality outside of the dollar.
Although I would never put that into my opening argument in trial.
Okay. Okay.
Bitcoin's not money.
Interesting. Okay. But it's, it goes back to the foundational elements of the US Republic is freedom and liberty.
Yes.
You used to have a free market for money.
Yes.
You don't have a free market for money.
No, 1913 really ruined things, and 1971 was just like the death sentence.
Yeah. So you now have you created the Fed, and then you came off the gold standard. What the fuck happened in 1971? But actually, Bitcoin is a very American idea.
Absolutely.
If you think about it. Even though the inventor is probably English, it's a very American idea. And it very much supports freedom, liberty, sovereignty. And so, a real American should love and support the idea of Bitcoin.
Yes. Yes.
And so to see it attacked, I see it as an attack on the American culture.
I think that's right. And I think that there's a growing number of people in the United States who they don't like American culture. They're ashamed of America. They hate the American flag. They don't like it. They think we're a terrible, evil country. And certainly I disagree with a lot of the foreign policy decisions that have been made over the last 50 years. Mm-hmm. But it's still an incredible place to live. I don't know what other country has the Second Amendment like we do. I don't know.
Switzerland, maybe? Similar?
Do they have conscription?
Don't know.
There's something with Switzerland, where they have a ton of guns, but I think they have some other issues related. Maybe it's conscription.
I think the US has probably the most liberal gun policies.
Yeah. And so, it's crazy. We have a First Amendment. We have free speech.
Yeah.
I'm minding my Twitter while I'm
Be careful what you say.
I'm being very careful.
You might get stopped at the airport by men with guns.
Yeah, I'm careful what I say on social media while I'm over here. And I just think people don't understand how good we have it. Healthcare, it's expensive, it's overpriced. I agree. Also, though, it's just a much higher quality than most other places in the world. Except when we drive out innovation. So that part sucks. And it's the same with Bitcoin. I want us to continue to be like the birthplace of innovation, just a shining star in the world. And it's just tragic that people hate it. It's like tall poppy syndrome. They want to stamp out anything that's better, anything that's like worthy, that could be a North Star.
So what can we say about these cases? If we start with Ian Freeman.
Yeah, let's start with Ian and work backwards.
So he's serving 8 years.
He's serving 8 years. He's already been in there for close to 3 years. Ian was a very outspoken libertarian activist in New Hampshire.
Okay.
Which was problem number one. Feds didn't like him.
Yeah.
And he was like one of the. He moved there, I think, for the Free State Project.
Mm-hmm.
And was definitely a benefactor of that movement generally. And the Free State Project is a bunch of libertarians moved to New Hampshire to make it the freest state, which it technically is by most metrics, and to reach critical mass there in the state legislature, which they have done. They're very focused on that. Tragedy being that the federal government didn't really care, quite frankly, because Ian's in prison. He had, among many other things going on, like libertarian things going on, he had some Bitcoin ATMs.
Okay.
And so people would come and use those Bitcoin ATMs to engage in business, okay, I want to put the dollars in and get the Bitcoin out. And there still is, and there definitely was at that time, ambiguity as to whether or not Bitcoin was a dollar. Is it a financial instrument? Is it money?
Mm-hmm. And
he had an unlicensed Bitcoin ATM. And so, yeah, basically the feds didn't like it.
So you can have Bitcoin ATMs, but you should have a license.
It's a gray area, and people recommend that you have licenses. So he didn't have one.
Okay.
But it was a gray area at the time. And there are still many unlicensed Bitcoin ATMs in the United States.
Okay, so what was he charged with? Money laundering?
Money laundering.
Wire fraud?
Money laundering, conspiracy to commit. What's the second charge? 2 major charges. They also had some tax evasion charges on there, and I believe they pulled all those. Oh, actually, the court, I believe, the judge overturned that conviction. It was a mess. It was a mess.
And that's quite a big sentence, 8 years.
It's ridiculous. When you look at, I was just looking up financial crimes that banking institutions commit. No one serves time. They rip off, banks rip off millions of dollars. People just lose so much money.
2008, anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah, no one went to jail.
They don't serve time. Ian didn't take anyone's money. So the thing that he got in trouble for is people used his ATMs to commit scams. So it's called Know Your Customer. There's a policy, that you have to have, generally speaking. He had a really strong one. Little old ladies who fall victim to romance scams. And I think actually plenty of millennials and people in their 30s and 40s fall victim to romance scams too. But, occasionally little old ladies would call in and, hello, I'd like to take my life savings and turn it in, and Ian's like, well, hold on, and walks him through, who's your husband? Do you know your husband? Which is very offensive sometimes to little old ladies that do know their husband. But he'd figure out somebody was being scammed and say, no, we're not going to do this transaction. I think he even tracked someone down one time, a woman's adult son, and called him, and was like, hey, your mom's trying to give me like thousands of dollars, and she wants to take it out in Bitcoin, and the whole thing sounds suspect. And that son was like, oh, thank you, so he stopped people from getting scammed. But he wasn't able to stop every single one because people lie to him.
Yeah.
How do you know when someone is lying over and over again? And so the feds used that to go after him and say that he was committing money laundering, he was engaged in financial crimes, and really threw the book at him. What's interesting is nobody went to prison for the actual scams. No one.
Did they have suspects?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Lots of suspects.
So this is a bit more like Ross Ulbricht. It is create a chilling effect.
Totally a chilling effect. And some of the suspects were out of the United States, and they're like, well, that's not our purview. I think it literally is. And there's whole divisions in your department dedicated to going after people in other countries who commit
Arthur
crime.
Hayes?
Yeah, there's it's in your purview, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's just meant to make an example of Ian.
And so he served 3. Could
Yep.
he serve a 4th and then be out? Does it work
He
like
could
that?
serve, it would be more than that.
But there's no appeals left. He's just...
Well, there's a Supreme Court appeal left.
Okay.
But that takes so much time. You know, they just wrapped up the latest appeal a couple months ago.
Which failed?
It failed.
Do we know on what grounds?
If I had drafted it, and I'm not an attorney, I'm a paralegal, but I basically do all the heavy lifting, you know, when I'm at a law firm and the attorney signs it, I would have made different arguments. But, yeah, there's no way it was just not going to happen.
Okay, let's talk about the Tornado Cash developers. Because I think this is a really interesting point in that we seem to have given up the right to privacy.
Totally.
I think everything that we found out with the NSA, tracking everything we say, do, or hear, and now it's almost getting weird. Like I had a conversation with my girlfriend the other day. Actually, I saw this great Instagram post. You'll love it. So this woman's, she's got her husband's phone. It's just on the side, and she's just shouting things, and it's like Christmas, big diamonds, new dresses, holiday to the Maldives, because these phones listen to us and display us ads. So we have no privacy left. Even if we try and get privacy, we're considered a criminal. You want privacy? You must be engaged in criminal activity. It's like, no, I just don't want the government to know everything I'm doing.
It's just a very basic concept. It's like the reason that we close the bathroom door. It's just privacy.
Well, without privacy, do you have real democracy without privacy?
I don't think you have.
It's like a foundational.
You don't have any freedom of choice without privacy because it completely rewires your behavior. You're disincentivized to do certain things.
Yeah. And so the Tornado Cash, that was an Ethereum.
That was an Ethereum one, similar to Samurai Wallet.
Yes.
But these guys are developers. So, you know, unlike Ian Freeman, they don't ever take your money. It doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. They wrote code. They put it out there. Anyone can download the code. I believe you create your own keys. You know, there's a way to do it. And then you can have peer-to-peer exchanges. You can send someone Bitcoin. They can send you Bitcoin. None of the money ever touched Roman Storm's hands. And they busted him for the same. You know, it's conspiracy, money laundering, unlicensed money transmission. That's what it is, unlicensed money transmitter. Even though we have, you know, this entity, FinCEN, that said, no, I don't think so. I don't believe that qualifies as a money transmitter if they don't touch the money, you know. And the court, the activist judges say, well, you know, maybe FinCEN wasn't really talking about, like, that's not what the whole department thinks. That's not what the whole government thinks. That's just some guys who wrote a letter on letterhead. Out of control. It's out of control. And this is what President Trump is dealing with in all these departments. You know, these people who just openly defy orders and
what is that hierarchy of authority in that you say an activist judge, but are they going to tap on the shoulder and saying you need to prosecute this guy because we need to set a standard?
I mean, I think so, but it's not coming from President Trump. You know, it's like, who is it coming from? And that's difficult to figure out sometimes. Is it coming from senators? Is it coming from special interests? You know, it's all done behind back doors.
And so, okay, so what is the status of Roman's case?
Roman went to trial. He was found guilty, but the jury was not able to reach a conclusion on one of the counts. And so I think we're going to find out next month what happens.
But he's probably going to serve time.
It's unclear.
He is serving time now, isn't he? Oh, but I thought he went.
Roman Sterlingov. There's two Romans. Roman Sterlingov is serving time. I believe he's in New Jersey right now in a federal prison. Roman Storm is still out. He's got a probation officer. I think he's in Washington and can't leave the state. So he's definitely dealing with some stuff. But his is the least scary right now. You know, his legal bills are pretty scary, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I was sued by Craig Wright in the UK.
Oh,
it's
man.
It's
not
scary.
good. Yeah, I'm lucky. I had D&O insurance when I got sued.
I wish I'd had insurance. So, what do these cases really say about civil liberties, and really, what do they really say about America at the moment?
It's not good. There are a lot of people in the United States who don't want us to have civil liberties. And I think that is one of the most important wars going on right now in the administration, and that President Trump, and some of the people he's picked, they're really trying to go to bat for us to say, like, yes, we do have civil liberties. We need to reclaim freedom. We need to reclaim our right to privacy, our First Amendment, because that's a very important issue in Roman Storm and the Samurai Wallet cases. Like writing software, writing code, literally writing it is free speech. It is a First Amendment issue.
But okay, so why doesn't that defense work?
Because there are people in positions of power who can just arbitrarily decide no.
But that doesn't sound like justice.
It's not. It's completely out of control. We have our justice system has been weaponized. And I think the real eye-opener was during COVID, where you saw all of this they're just like, what did Arnold Schwarzenegger say? He said, screw your freedoms. Screw your freedoms.
I fell for it.
It was wild. Oh, really?
Yeah, I fell for it at first.
I was just day one, like, nope, not doing this, not wearing the mask. This is BS. I don't believe it. I don't know what wild conspiracy. I don't know how true XYZ with germs are, but I ain't doing this. This is a giant control operation.
Yeah, I fell for it. I think it was like the final thing for me. Afterwards, I was like, shit.
They scare you. I mean, it's a scare tactic.
Well, yeah, but it was a chain of events. So I went out. There was a crisis in Turkey at the border where Erdogan was opening up the border because there had too many immigrants in the country and wanted to flood Europe.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm going to go and film this. And so I found a sponsor. He said, yeah, go. We'll pay for it all. And I flew out. And the day I flew out was the day that the rumors the next day was we were going to close the airports. So I just went. And I went, and you could fly back. Plane was half empty. I think I got COVID because I was almost the most ill I've ever been. And then I came back, and on my podcast, I ended up interviewing this doctor who was talking about the flood of people coming into the hospital who couldn't breathe. And I was like, oh shit, this is a real thing. And so I fell for it. I completely fell for it. I supported it. I was like, yeah, we should lock down. It's a good idea. I got the jab.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I got the jab, although I wouldn't let my daughter have it. And I can't remember the moment in time. There was a moment in time I was like, fuck. And that's it. Ever since then, it's like I don't trust anyone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody has their moment, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has their red pill moment. I think that's what the United States... We're supposed to be against that, and we have a strong disagreement in the United States about how far control and freedom should go. And that is really manifesting in these cases, and we've already seen it in COVID, like the very worst of it. They just don't want us to have that much freedom. Just a little bit of freedom. Just a little bit.
Why and who and for what reason, though? Is it because I always think, is this just organic? Is this the way government works? Does government just grow, and to maintain itself, it's a bit like, when Hayek talks about spontaneous markets, like markets are the spontaneous order that's created from millions of little decisions. Is government the same? Is it the compound interest of bad incentives?
It's like a self-licking ice cream cone, I think it exists at this point. It's supposed to exist to defend our liberties. It's supposed to just be a minimal amount of government. That didn't stay in place very long. I think at this point it just exists to keep itself in existence and to feed itself and to grow, just like any other organism that's like that. And so it's disincentivized to give us liberty, because it just needs more and more control so it can get bigger and bigger and bigger. Is
it essentially doing everything that your forefathers warned about? Is it the Hamiltons? Yes. Because I've read the Federalist Papers. I've read the Declaration of Independence. I've waxed lyrical about it on here. And I've said everyone listening should go and read the Declaration of Independence. The gripes the colonies had with the British government, exactly what we should have with our British government right now. It's everything they warned about is happening right now.
Yes.
And then I look and go, well, these were great people in some ways. Yeah, I mean, they had a few slaves, but like generally they were...
For the time.
Yeah.
For the time, they were very forward thinking.
But what? It's almost like every senator you've had since, it's like, why don't you not think like these people? Where's your backbone? Where's your integrity?
That is one thing that I'm very frustrated with, is I feel like Americans have just sort of lost their backbone. Not all of them, but most of them, you know. And I live in Texas, and I lived in LA for a long time, but I grew up in Texas and moved back, you know, before I had my son. And I see all these tough men who have a lot of guns, watch football, some of them are veterans, walking around grumbling about COVID. And I'm like, is anybody going to do anything? I don't mean like just walk around and start shooting people. I don't mean do something like that, not violent. Are we going to just say no? Can we just say no? They don't know. That's too much effort, I guess.
But you celebrate your history so much.
Yes.
America is so proud of its history. It's so proud of how the Republic was found. It's so proud of what you fought in your Civil War, in your Revolutionary War. Like, so proud of this and so proud of the people. And yet you keep electing people who look nothing like Hamilton, Washington.
We've turned into a bunch of Canadians. It's just... I thought we got rid of them all. You know, no offense, you know, but those were the people who supported the crown. It was like, get out of here, you know. I think we kind of persecuted them a little bit after the American Revolution. We were like, get out of here, crown loving scum, and then we just turned into them. It's just, you know, I've been like, I was the person getting in fights in the grocery store. I'm not wearing a mask. You know, I almost got kicked off an airplane. I ripped out the lining of the mask so I could breathe better. I didn't realize I would have such an issue with it, but I actually, like, it freaked me out. I had, like, claustrophobia.
Put it over your nose.
Yeah, they were like, put it on, ma'am. Oh, it was a disaster. I had like, an emergency surgery during the height of COVID. Oh. And I had to fly home afterwards, and it was just drugged up on steroids. Because, of course, it happened when I'm meeting my in-laws for the first time.
Of course. Of course.
Hi, welcome. Thanks for having me over. I need to go to the hospital to have emergency surgery. And so I'm flying back home, you know, and they're like, you have to put your mask on. I'm like, I literally have a medical order right here that says I don't have to wear one because I'm taking this thing that makes it hard to breathe. And they're like, wear it or get off the plane. That was the closest I've come to complying, you know. I went to the bathroom and tore out the lining and poked little holes in it that they couldn't see so I could breathe. But most Americans won't do that. They'll just put on the mask. I'm like, what are you doing? What do you do? We can all, if there's 100 of us, we can all just be like, no, we outnumber you. I see people have like crazy riots over, I don't know, French fries and not getting enough ranch dressing, you know, when they go to the fast food restaurant. And I'm like, we can't, like, there's all these like ghetto people rioting at the Chick-fil-A. We can't riot when there's like a real reason to.
We can start a revolution on spirit.
Like, can 100 Karens rise up and Karen their way out of this?
But the problem is one side of the plane will be with you and one will be against you.
Yeah.
One side is like, we want freedom. The other side is you're killing grandma.
We hate freedom.
Yeah, we hate freedom.
We want free stuff, not freedom.
Well, so look, I tweeted the other day that the battle of our time is I want free shit versus leave my shit alone.
Yes, absolutely. It's freedom versus free stuff.
Yeah, it's freedom versus free stuff. And like you can bring every argument back to that. It's big government, small government. It's high tax, low tax. It is pro entrepreneur, hostile to entrepreneur. Everything comes back to free shit versus freedom. And it's almost like we're reaching this kind of crescendo with it. Like I mentioned in the UK, it's okay, the Conservatives aren't going to give us freedom and Labour Party aren't giving us our free shit. Okay, so we're going to go to Reform and Green, but it's a battle of our time. It's like like you said, it's like an internal Cold War.
Yes.
And it's like, who's going to win?
Oh man, I mean, I hope it's Liberty. You know, I worry that that the right wing is going to become too reactionary. Both sides are angry, right? And so if we feed that, I don't think that's good. You know, I want the right to embrace liberty more and to not be so nihilistic and angry and resentful. And if we can dodge that bullet, you know, I think that we can win.
So on this podcast, you are definitely hearing me talk about Bitcoin a lot. Well, why? We live in a really strange time with governments driving inflation with their reckless spending and endless money printing. There is a way out of this. There is a way to protect your money, and that is by stacking Bitcoin. I've made loads of shows about Bitcoin. You can go and research this, you can go and read the books, but the truth is it is the hardest money ever created. If you are interested in protecting your financial future, it's time for you to get on the Bitcoin train. I've been stacking Bitcoin personally and through my businesses since 2017. It's protected me, it's secured my family's future, and it also strengthens all of my businesses. So if you want to start stacking Bitcoin, where do you do it? Well, for me, it's with Gemini. They're a fully licensed, full reserve exchange and custodian, so they give you a secure way for you to buy and own your Bitcoin. There's no risks and no funny business. So if you're serious about stacking Bitcoin the right way, head over to Gemini.com, which is GEMINI.com. Well, there's a natural alignment between conservatives and libertarians.
Yes.
If you look at economics and law and order.
Economics and being rational and not being so emotional.
Yes. But it used to be with the Democrats.
The libertarians?
I used to think there was more of an alignment between the Democrats and the libertarians.
I don't think so. I mean, maybe it depends on the libertarian.
Well, I think it's the era of the neocons who still there.
For sure. Maybe it just changes administration to administration. I mean, most of us are really triggered, though, about taking our guns away. Like, that is ultimately the most triggering thing for us.
You can't sell that here, by the way.
I know.
You know, you Connor, if we had a vote, if we had a referendum for essentially a Second Amendment here, we could have guns. What percent do you think would vote yes?
Below 5.
Below 5.
That's crazy.
It may be below 1.
Yeah.
It might be just like me, Connor, and a couple of random people.
That's wild.
Yeah, because but the way we see it in our country is...
We like knife fights.
We like knife fights.
I read about it.
We'll get you with a fork.
Yeah, it seems a little rough.
Yeah, we're against it. We're against it. Even the people who can get guns, because you can get a gun, you have to have a certain license, has to be sporting, whatever. Mm-hmm. But your opportunity to use it in defense is tiny.
Jeez.
So if somebody walked into your house, if somebody walked across your yard holding a gun saying, I'm going to shoot you, and you shot them through the window, you go to jail.
They got to be in your home, I assume.
They got to be in your home, pointing the gun at your head at the moment you think, I'm about to die.
That's pretty...
And even then, you might go to prison.
Yeah, you still might go to prison.
Yeah, that's a pretty narrow window of time to use a gun. A race to pull the trigger, I guess.
Yeah, but we look across... There's not a... We don't start with the point of freedom and liberty, whereby it's like, it's my choice to own a gun to defend myself. We start at the point of what is the risk of society having guns.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem. So generally in the United States, if you ask someone who's really educated on it, these are natural rights, and the Constitution is put there to defend them. But the Constitution didn't grant me a right to own a gun. That's my natural right. My natural right to defend myself with whatever instrument is within arm's length.
Defend life, liberty, and...
Yes.
Yeah. So, in fairness, you kicked us out for a reason.
Right. Yeah, we had a big disagreement on that.
Yeah, a little tax on the T. But, it would never... I don't think culturally... It's almost like... You know how America couldn't culturally shift to not having guns?
Yes.
Because you can't get the guns back?
Yeah, there's just no way.
We couldn't culturally shift to having them because the first people to get the guns are probably... Some of them would be stupid and start shooting each other. So...
we have that too.
Yeah,
we have that too.
But that's what we look at. We look across and go, there's another school shooting.
I think we probably have less stabbings, and we have...
Do you know that's actually not true?
Is it? Interesting.
Statistically, yeah, it's not true. I think you can look that up, Connor, because somebody said it to me once. I was like, I wonder what it is, and I looked it up. But
America's wild.
But what you have is if somebody runs at you with a knife, you have the right to defend yourself against that person.
Yes, most states have pretty good laws on that.
Yeah.
Some of the further blue states are starting to erode that and make it difficult. New York is a challenging one for sure. But
New York has fallen. It's gone.
yeah. It's important though. It's important to be able to defend yourself.
Yeah. Let's
I don't believe this.
What have you found?
It says 31 in the UK.
31
Stabbing deaths.
this year?
Yeah.
That sounds underreported.
Yeah.
It
And the
might-
US,
No,
1,600.
maybe deaths, but per capita. Like ours per capita, and ours for last year. Because we hear of a lot of stabbings.
2023,
Yeah.
per 100,000, US was 0.49. The UK was... doesn't say.
So we have less stabbings but higher fatalities. We mean it when we do it, I guess.
Yeah.
We mean business.
You got a better aim. I'm pretty sure it's higher. I'm almost certain. Every time I've looked it up, and it's state dependent.
Yeah.
I think red states stab people a little bit more, surprisingly.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I could be wrong. When I looked it up, I was actually surprised.
I have a sign in my window warning people that we have a god and a gun in this home. And if you enter, you will meet both of them if you break in.
So we own a football team, and my photo in the program of the thing is me holding an AR-15 that I shot in Vegas, and there was a complaint about that photo, and the Football Association charged me for it, and I got banned for going to 3 games for having a photo of me holding a gun.
Photo of a gun.
Photo of me holding a gun for bringing the game into disrepute. There you go. That's the photo. I like it. I think it's a cool photo.
I think it's a great photo.
Yeah, but I got banned for, there you go, chair, fine for FA gun. I was fined, £30? Here we go. On the BBC, the chairman of non-league football club has been fined by the FA after a photo of him holding a large gun was printed in the match programme. What was it? The FA said here, a £30 fine was issued for improper conduct in relation to the picture. He was also given a separate fine and a 3-match ban for using... Oh, the ban was because I called the other manager a cock on Twitter. He deserved it. He was a bully. He bullied one of our female players.
Ugh.
But like that's where we are. We can't even have a photo of a gun, let alone hold
I
a
just
gun.
can't. Yeah, I can't relate to it.
Yeah, you're never going to sell it here. So what does the future hold then for liberty in America in the worldview of what you're doing?
I think the right wing, including libertarians, needs to get their act together and join forces. Doesn't need to be across the board, just areas of common interest, right? Free speech, civil liberties, privacy, things of that nature, shrinking the government, defeating the deep state, because we have a deep state cabal who hates our president and wants to throw us into socialism, right? And we need to work together. And if we can do that, then I think that we can make some progress. The thing that was so incredible about President Trump getting reelected again is the tide turned, like for the first time in a long time. People are complaining that we haven't made enough progress, but we just did the hardest thing, which was shifted the trajectory of the country. It's so difficult to do because it's so huge, and it's so laborious and it involves so many coalition partners. We just need to keep making progress. And if we don't make perfect progress on foreign policy, if we don't make perfect progress on things like the Epstein files, like we have to just make progress anywhere and everywhere we can. This is low-hanging fruit. This is low-hanging fruit.
This is the easy stuff.
This is the easy stuff. I've asked the administration to issue pardons for these men. They deserve them. It's an easy win. It's an easy win for them. We need to rally the troops. So I think this is something that will help turn out in the midterms. We just have to work together. People don't want to hear it. They're caught up in their feels on Twitter. They're very mad. They see President Trump fighting with Thomas Massie. You just got to do the work. You don't like it? Support Thomas Massie. Support Thomas Massie, donate to him, door knock for him. He's probably going to be fine. I think he's very safe in his district. But we gotta get it together.
You got to move the needle.
We got to move the needle. I don't care about all of the podcaster battles,
But that's interesting in itself.
Oh my gosh, 3 hours of hearing conspiracy theories about Charlie Kirk's death. I think he was holding everything together. Everything just exploded afterwards. We got to pick up the pieces and just march forward.
Is there a natural person to take over Charlie?
Jack Posobiec. He's the closest you're going to get because he's a Christian. He's generally sweet and doesn't pick nasty fights with other right-wing influencers, and he was Charlie Kirk's close friend. He's a friend of mine. He's a fantastic person. I think he's the closest. And I love a lot of the other guys, like Vivek Ramaswamy has done some.
Yeah,
he's a friend of mine. I fully support him, but I think it's got to be a Christian who picks up Charlie's mantle.
Can you find him? Can we see anything of him? See if I know who he is. Oh, yeah. Can you find him talking? Is he doing college debates?
I think he's doing some. Yeah, they've been, changing people in, Ben Shapiro, but again, no, I'm not throwing any shade on anyone for being Jewish, but a big part of Charlie's identity was being a Christian.
Yes.
It's not just conservatism. That was his brand. So it needs to be a Christian who takes over for him.
And you've had this weird breakaway because Nick Fuentes, who I'm cautious about, gender-wise, but Candice, who can be a little bit out there. There is this kind of breakaway from the status side of the Republican Party.
Yes. It's reactionaryism, though.
Yeah.
It's generally driven by a reaction to something, literally. It's full of anger. It's full of resentment. It's not moving us forward. It's keeping us focused on a handful of narrow issues where we're not advancing, when there's plenty of other areas we can advance to. And, I'm very sympathetic to Gen Z men in the United States who feel that they don't have a future and they're angry, but preaching to people that all their problems are related to Jews and that they shouldn't get married and have kids and they should be political reactionaries. I'm like, that is not a future.
No.
That is sustainable, and it's not anything that's going to make the United States better. We have to give them hope and opportunity, not just make them more pissed off and tell them stay at home and be an angry online political activist. No,
get out there.
Get out there, get a job, educate yourself in some way. You have to go fight. The system is unfair. Life is unfair. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry it's harder for you than it was for me. Do your best and become a man and self-actualize. Yeah. Don't the frog culture sucks.
Yeah. But don't be a victim.
Don't be a victim.
Wait for the government to save you.
No.
That is an interesting thing, though. It's all that infighting within the conservative movement, but everyone was friends with Charlie Kirk.
Yep. I was friends with Charlie Kirk. Charlie donated $100,000 to a big event I had called Rescue the Republic. I don't know anybody who wasn't friends with Charlie Kirk. Everybody's friends with Charlie Kirk.
Oh, man. What a sad loss. We need a Charlie Kirk type person in the UK.
Yeah.
It won't be led with Christianity. That doesn't sell here.
I know.
Enough.
It's coming back.
It's coming back, though, right? There's this really good book called The Twilight of Atheism by this Irish theologian, Alistair McGrath. It was written in 2004, and he predicted that atheism was just going to be on its way out because it's not satisfying. And I think we're starting to get to that point. There's a great revival happening in the United States of Christianity, so it could possibly happen here.
I mean, you're definitely seeing a movement. We even talked about it ourselves in the car when we drive back normally. Is feeling like you need to anchor yourself to something.
Yes.
Have something to anchor yourself to have a moral framework to live by.
Yes.
I mean, I am a Catholic. I was raised a Catholic. My mum was a staunch Catholic, but I don't go to church.
Right.
I don't read the Bible. I don't pray. I'm not a practicing Catholic. But there's definitely, it may even be an age thing for me. It's everything's crazy. Everything's so insane. It's can we anchor ourselves to something?
I think it's necessary. I don't think the Ross Ulbricht pardon or Roger Ver's settlement would have happened if I hadn't been praying about it so hard. I've never prayed so hard for anything in my life.
You don't just think it was a good deal?
No. I mean, Ross was easier than Roger, and maybe in the future I'll be able to break all of that down.
How's Roger doing? I spoke to him recently, very briefly. So I've interviewed Roger before. I went out to Japan and interviewed him.
He's doing better.
He was interview 5 of my podcast or something. I went out to Japan and interviewed him. He's really kind, nice guy. To me.
Yeah. He's incredibly generous.
But he fell out with a lot of the Bitcoiners. We don't need to get into that. But he secretly, when I was being sued, like I reached out to him and said, I've got no money for this lawsuit. He's like, I'll give you $100K.
So generous and sweet.
Yeah.
So generous and sweet. He and Ian both just incredibly generous, have helped a lot of people. You know, like when I started working with Ian and trying to like get him into shape to get a pardon, he sends me a list. He's like, here's 60 other people who need pardon. You know, it's just so kind. Roger's always like, who needs help? You know, how are they doing? Are they okay? Do they have an attorney? Do they need help? It's always helping.
Well, listen, I wish you the best. I hope here in the UK we have a growing movement of liberty. I think it's something we should be teaching at school. I think we should be teaching kids history. I think we should, and not just how many wives Henry VIII had.
Real history.
Real history. You know, how great nations were created.
Yep.
What happened during the Industrial Revolution? What happens when governments get big? What happened in the Soviet Republic? What happened in East Germany? We should be giving them a base foundation for understanding the good and the bad side of government and why freedom and liberty are important. We do not teach. People fight you on freedom and liberty. It's like, hey, I'm here because I want freedom. And they're like, what the fuck's wrong with you? You're insane. I'm like, I just want freedom.
It's a dirty word.
Yeah. How is freedom? How have we made freedom a pejorative?
I don't really understand how that needs to be taught in history.
Yeah.
That needs to be a whole class.
I really, honestly, I think that what did you call it? The third...
Third world?
No. Yeah, I mean, yeah, God. No, in politics, you talked about the
third party.
The third party. I think I'm going to steal that because I kind of think that's what we need to do because...
You leverage it. Here's the plan.
Give me the playbook.
And this is sort of what we did in the last election. And here's what I want to do explicitly. You get your 1.5 to 3.5% in this third party. You don't need to grow it big enough to win elections. You have to become a voting bloc that people must cater to. And you get a candidate who's running for president, prime minister, whatever it is, right? And this is what we're running on. And you go to the negotiating table and you negotiate with the likely front runner of the Conservative Party or Reform or whoever it is. And you're like, these are the things that we're running on. And you exact concessions and you do it diplomatically, but firmly. And you get those concessions and then you drop out and endorse.
That's basically what Rupert Lowe's doing, right?
You do that.
Yeah.
Kennedy did this, right? So the Libertarian Party also worked with Kennedy. We entered into a joint fundraising agreement with him, which meant he could fundraise more and take bigger donations as opposed to being independent. We were like his unofficial party. And that enabled him to go to the negotiating table with President Trump because he was going to take 10% of the vote. It's crazy. You don't have to win. You just get organized, negotiate, drop out, get a cabinet position, and just stack wins every 2 to 4 years.
Right.
It can be done.
I feel empowered.
Yes.
Angela, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Is there anything we didn't discuss you wish we had?
I'm recruiting for the Mises Caucus.
Okay.
You want to see us repeat in 2028 what we did in 24? I'd like to have a Bitcoiner and a Maha person as our presidential and vice presidential candidates. I'd like to send them to negotiate with J.D. Vance or whoever the Republican nominee will be. And I'd like to see them get strong concessions and drop out and endorse. So if you want to advance liberty, if you want to get maybe 2 cabinet positions, go to lpmisescaucus.com, sign up with us in the United States, and help us advance, and be useful.
Have you got a Bitcoiner lined up?
Not yet. I'm actively looking for a Bitcoiner.
Pierre Rochard. Do you know Pierre?
In the United States?
Yeah.
I do not know
Pierre Rochard. He's the guy who I've always thought, and I've got on with him and fallen out with him and got on with him. I think he understands Bitcoin better than most. And I think he understands politics well.
Okay.
I've seen him in DC. I've seen him in his suit and tie. I'm not physically. I've seen the photos. I think Pierre Rochard, if he would be interested, he'd be the most interested one. I can introduce you.
Okay, thank you.
I will do that. Angela, thank you so much. Good luck with everything. Keep doing your thing. I think I'll come and see you next in America.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll see you soon. Bye.